Howdy. This is gonna be a test because my kids are out there and they're playing really loud, and I haven't made an outline because I don't know, I feel like I'm just gonna wing this one. So we'll see if this ends up being good enough to post. Part of the reason why I'm gonna wing this is because it's literally just a thought that popped in my head this morning, and it's along the lines of the stuff that I've been thinking about lately with just stuff about walking in the spirit and not in the flesh, and just the fallout of having all of these sort of fleshly ministries that may or may not have started in the spirit. We don't know. Only God knows. But Yeah, I remember hearing, I don't remember who was saying that, but they were talking about, the idea that there is, every church, there's an angel over every church. And, um, the spirit is the one that begins a congregation. And so you just going to your seminary or, whatever, deciding that you're going to start a church, and there's been no prayer, you haven't gotten any instructions on it. How many churches are started out of human will? Because it's like, oh, you see a church, in the physical, in the natural, and you go, oh, I'm gonna start me a church too, or whatever. Um, we tend to think like the home churches are the rogue ones, and really the rogue church is any church that God didn't start. Um, so, um, yeah, and I've just been thinking a lot about these similar concepts of um, these parallels of what's in the spirit versus what's in the flesh. Someone's spying on me. Um, and I was watching a video this morning, and it was a little tidbit about, it was Thomas Sowell, and it was a tidbit about intellectuals. And I can't even remember what the main problem was, but it was like, why has intellectualism, gotten so bad? I don't remember what exactly the question was, but he was saying that um, these intellectuals are being asked to speak on things outside of their expertise because, um, as you should know, if you don't know that, the higher up you go in your education, the more specialized it gets. So these people with PhDs and whatnot, typically they have them in a very specialized field. But what happens is they become these, they're asked to speak on all of these other things. So he was like, Noam Chomsky, we wouldn't even know this man's name if he would have just stayed in this field, which was linguistics. And honestly, I didn't even know that the man was a specialist in linguistics, because they ask him just about everything just because he is a PhD or something. So, he's like, yeah, we wouldn't know these people if they just were in their fields. He mentioned another one that I feel like I heard his name before, but I forget what it was now, but it was something Shaw or something. Um, but it was in like, did he say entomology or something, which is either something to do with knowledge or bugs? I don't remember, but the point is, he's a specialist in that. We don't need to bring him on about our political climate. You know what I'm saying? And it reminded me of the church because that's what you have happening, where you got these people who are sometimes educated, sometimes not, but they're good at speaking, and they're the leaders of these things that we make, and we go to them for everything. And I don't, but people do. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying a little bit ago about, there's a certain type of thing, that this is just something that we do as humans. This is fleshly, but you see how well it works in the world, which is not very well. So it works even worse in the church, where yes, when there's like some super smart brain, super big brain, and we get him to, we're like, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? What do you think about this? And that I don't know why we do that. I don't know why we bring our nonsense to one man and try to make him like answer all of the things about what we should do. Um, and there's probably something in that that's good. That there's a reason why we have leadership and why we have. But the problem is, we don't have enough people willing to be like, I don't know. Why are you asking me? And this is something like fundamentally, it's like I'm very much that person. I'm like, I get very overwhelmed. Like you couldn't, trap me into this, which is essentially what it is a trap. Um, that, it's like I don't know your life. Like, why are you asking me all of these questions? Like, this stuff is also available to you. Like, go do such and such. But there's some people that fall into that trap because they like being the person that people come to for answers. And you end up, whether that's ego, pride, whatever, ego, I've been thinking a lot about how these concepts that we use, this is, some humans' theories about what we're made of. It's like the Bible say is flesh and the spirit, and those are the two things that make us up. There's the id, the ego, the super ego, all this stuff. It's just some theories that some dude made up that we're just repeating, ad nauseum. And I mean, it's literally only 100 years old, like in the whole history of human whatever. So anyway, hello. Do you need something?
Do you want to play Uno after your video?
Sure. So anyway, yeah, and I was thinking about, like, I said this in a video previously that was like, we've all been to school with that person that, when during a test, they're like, what's the answer to number 2? And you tell them the answer, and they're like, okay, what's the answer to number 3? What's the answer to number 4? And after a while, you figure out that they have no intentions of actually, doing the work. They're just trying to get the answer so they can get what they need to get to go to the next place, which, is corny, but it's true because they're cheating themselves, and that's the only person that they're cheating. But imagine not realizing, imagine liking being the person that gives the answers out. And there are some people that are like this. I've heard stories about, people who, you become the popular dude. You hacked the computer and gave everybody the answers to the test. Now you're the whatever. You're the person that people go to for drugs, and that gives you a soft, warm feeling inside. Like these people who are sort of mixing their mixing the good with the bad. Like, that's quintessential humanity. But that's what you're doing in churches when people are like, what's the answer? And you give it to them. And it's like, you're cheating your own spiritual whatever when you just go to somebody for answers, and then you never go to God. You're just trying to get the answer so you get to the place, you get the stuff. It's like we don't really notice that is what is going on. Like that's what people are doing when they ask that. And then you've got these leaders who are feeding off of this energy of looking like they're a source of information. And the devil knows full well what's happening, and he will never stop you from going down this road. So we've really got this super hot mess in the spirit that it's the same hot mess that we have in the world, but it's even more embarrassing because we should know better. So, I was thinking about that, and I'd been meaning to make a video of like, I don't know, I've been getting this revelation about men and women and what we sort of represent in the spirit, like our respective issues that we tend to have, in relationships and what that looks like um, spiritually. And it seems like there's sort of a male and a female version of, I don't know, you want to say like idolatry or something. It's like, men, when women talk about like the things that they try to avoid in relationships and the type of men they try to avoid and all this stuff, um, you're trying to avoid a man whose only goal is to, say whatever he needs to say and tell you whatever he needs to tell you to get what he wants, which we think we know what that is, but we kind of don't, like, because we don't understand like the male brain. And I don't know, after a while, uh, you get a little older and you start to see patterns and you start to come to difficult conclusions and you go, oh, that's what you like. It just doesn't make any sense to you because you never would think that way. But, in that you can see like both a metaphor for you as a sinner or you as a person that needs God, but then also like, especially with men, you can see, well, no, with both, you can see like God's side and like, it's like we question certain things about God and we're like, well, why does he do like this? And it's like, okay, well, think of a husband, think of a man, and he's saying like he doesn't want you doing this or that. I can't think of any good examples like right now that I've seen that I'm like, yeah, that sounds like God. But like I just recently watched one about there's this big there's a movement on TikTok about just like, what do you call it? Female talk, woman talk, I don't know. Single woman talk, whatever. But they're trying to come up with these strategies and of how to find out if a man is really just full of crap or not. Very difficult, very difficult. But there's a couple of popular sayings. One of which is, "If he wanted to, he would," which most men will tell you is true. But I saw a video and the lady was saying like, "Here's what I do." Like she's like, if I bring a guy over and he wants, and tell him like, I forget Coraline. There's this really weird movie called Coraline. It's like, is it a kids movie? Is it not? It's like claymation, but weird. It's sort of like, I don't know, who's the weird dude that makes all the weird movies? He's got the weird hair and he's not married to Helen Bonham Carter, but nobody knows why he's not married to her. And now they're not together. And you're like, wow, you just wasted 20 years of that lady's life. Anyways, so she was like, yeah, he didn't make that movie, by the way, but it's like that. And she's like, yeah, I call it the Coraline test. And I bring a guy over and tell him, oh, Coraline's my favorite movie, blah, blah, blah. And if they're like, oh, yeah, me too, or whatever, or they like, I don't know why a guy would agree with that, but that's really sad if a man is agreeing with that. Like that right there is like red flag. Because who's raving about this movie, right? And she's like, and then I bring him over and they're watching it. I'll leave the room and watch them or whatever. And all the guys in the comments were just like, wow. Like that, they were, the idea was that was over the top, or it wasn't, it was like you would dump a man over some goofy test like that. But it was like very obvious it's like women know what we're trying to get out of that. Like, I wouldn't necessarily agree unless it's really more to just find out if you're just going to say anything. Not really so much like, oh, that guy, the guy doesn't like the same movies as you, so you're letting him go. It's like you're not even trying to pay attention to what she's talking about. She's saying that She's going to test you to see if you're just going to just say anything. Because I think it was stitched with another video of a woman who was like, um, she was filming her boyfriend or husband or whatever, and he was like on his phone, just like deep on his phone, and the TV was on, and she was like, my husband who said that he loved documentaries just as much as I do, or something like that. And so that was the topic of the video. And so to me, it was quintessential. It's like, okay, this is what God is doing. It's like, you might think that that's, the men all thought that that was over the top because they don't think it's fair. And they don't think it's fair because they want to be able to do that without anybody catching on. Basically, I can't imagine. I don't know why else you would object to that, except for that, it would disqualify so many people, including yourself, and you don't think that that's fair. You're like, that's not fair that why are you telling women to do this? Now I may not get a woman because I'm full of hot air, and now they have a test that they can use. Like, that's really what the gripe was. And it's like, this is what people do with God, where they don't like the fact that, that there's going to be, if you don't love God, you can't get into heaven. It's like, well, what? So you're just going to create me, and then if I don't like your stuff, I don't get to go? It's like, yeah, yes. And they don't think that that's fair because they don't want to suffer punishment, but they also don't want to love the things of God exclusively either. They want to be able to do all of the stuff. So there's a lot of things that we look at God and we go, oh my gosh, but it's like, this literally exists in life, in our relationships. I mean, basically, if you want to understand God's motives, like, a relationship issues is where you need to look at, because that is, the main one, the marriage one, the one that everyone is trying to get, the soulmate one. Because that's where you'll find your answers. If you're looking at God like, just the God who creates everything, and it's like, you're just thinking about issues of like fairness and creation and why things happen. He's just, for you, he's just the person that decides what happens. And you're like, well, why would he do this? And how come he hasn't done that? And it's like, the reason why you're confused about him and why it doesn't make sense to you is because you haven't put the relationship bit in. And I guarantee you, if you looked at the things you were confused about, not only would it make sense to you, but you would see that you do the same things and you would want the same things done for you. But yeah, so I didn't really even, like, the video that I wanted to make was going to be a little more in depth, but I don't know, it was still kind of like cooking or whatever. I didn't have the whole topic, so I might still bring that up. But yeah, that and the first thing that I was talking about, because this whole in the flesh versus the spirit thing is just, because this is the thing, like, this is the problem. And so there's really no need to talk about anything else, because even if you're talking about religious this or church hurt or whatever, like, it all is coming down to walking in the flesh versus the spirit. So that's literally like the only thing that we need to be talking about if we're talking about what needs to change. So yeah, I guess I'll just leave you with that, and I'm gonna go play some Uno.